Welcome. Today I'm going to show you how I sharpen a dovetail saw. This is the one my students use all the time. It's one of my favorite, and it's a very well made saw by VERITAS. If you're gonna get one of these, I could get the standard one. There is another one which is very fine. The blade is very fine, and I think is a bit more fragile, and I would only use it for very soft woods. But for the most part, if you're dovetailing on oak or things like that, you're gonna want the standard one. So first of all, I wanted to show you this cheap example here. This one has blackened teeth. Okay, this is because they have been hardened with some sort of electric impulse or something like that, and this cannot be resharpened. So if you have a blade with blackened teeth like this one, you know, it's just single use, so to speak, not intended to be resharpened. But all wood quality saws are meant to be sharpened. They usually come fully sharpened, and no problem with that. But over time, you're gonna need to improve their performance. Okay, and they should last, I think, 3 lifetimes or more. Actually, there are some Diston D8s. They are very famous saws, and even the vintage ones, they are highly appreciated today, and they perform very, very well. So let's see how we do that. It's not difficult. You might find it daunting in the beginning, but I can assure you, just with a couple of goes at the try saw, some cheaper stuff that you might find, you will get the knack of it. And I think it's nearly impossible to mess with one of those. One of the most important parts of sharpening a saw is having it properly supported. Okay, and there are many ways to do that. The simplest one could be to get 2 strips of wood and place them either side of the blade of the plate, and then you could go onto the vise. But that's pretty cumbersome to do, and this is a much better form of support. Okay, this is a saw vise specially designed to support your blade while you are filing it, and it will absorb most of the vibrations, giving you a very good result. So this one is made by Dictum, and it's a joy to use. And I think a big part of the performance of this saw vise is the cork here. There is a cork lining which will absorb very well all the vibrations and give you positive contact with the blade. So I'm gonna come in here. As always, all forms of metalworking, sharpening and so on, I never do in my main workbench, which is here. I do them somewhere else, and then I will vacuum clean everything. Yeah, which is a very important part, because you don't want metal particles around a woodworking shop. Okay, I will just lower it down a little bit more. All right. A light is indispensable. One of those angle point lamps are great for many things, and this is one of the situations you really need to have one of them. Some of them, they have a magnification glass incorporated, which can be very interesting. So helping also with visibility, the first thing I'm gonna do is to paint individually every teeth in the saw, which is going to take a little bit long. So taking your time and painting individually every tooth here, it's so much better than just coming here and do like that, because it's gonna mess your Sharpie and you will have single-use Sharpies really. So I like to take my time and make sure every tooth gets its share of ink, and that's about just 1 minute. Okay, so let's discuss the files. You'll get the files as accessories from the same supplier that sells you the saw. And this one is a 4mm double extra slim file, which is intended for saw sharpening. Okay, the handle I made myself, and I'm so proud and happy with it. Actually, the shape, it makes it very, very comfortable. And that's a very important part, because we're going to orient the triangular section in a very particular way. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I wanted to mention that this is one of the tools that I will be making for you as a reward for the crowdfunding campaign for my online school of woodworking. So as you know, I've been teaching for 10 years now, and I have live students that come from all over the world. Now in July we have people from Australia, from Poland, from Italy, from the UK. So but for those who cannot come here, we're gonna teach everything that I know in a very systematic way through a series of projects, and we're gonna put all of that together, and you have the online woodworking school. And so if you want to be a part of that and support us, soon, very soon, there will be a few of these tools available, including the saw VISE, the saw file. All right, so let's discuss the geometry of this and the geometry of the teeth. I'm gonna make a couple of simple drawings for you. This is one. Okay, and this is another very different form of tooth. Okay, so the shape of this first row here, as you can see, it's a very soft profile, and it's going to work equally as bad in this direction and in this direction, meaning it's not very aggressive a cut, and it's not going to give you a very good and efficient sewing. All right, this is the angle we are talking about. This angle here is called rake, and the rake on a dovetail saw should be 0 degrees. That's the peacock. So 0 degrees of a rake angle, it will give you a very aggressive cut and also a very clean cut and lots of efficiency. Okay, if you go negative on that angle, that could become extremely steep and extremely aggressive, and it could be difficult to manage your saw. Okay, also the teeth would become much more fragile, and as it's the first example, thick positive rake, it's gonna give you a very bad, very poor sawing. Okay, and I'm afraid to say there are many saws that are raked in this with a positive rake, and that's not what you want for a dovetail saw. Now, how we change or maintain this angle here in our teeth? That's very simple. We're gonna place our triangular file right in here in the gullet, and actually if I paint it like so, you can see we're touching with both faces, we're touching both sides of the teeth. You will see it in action in a minute. And so is this movement which will control the shape of the teeth. And so that's why it's so important to have a good handle that will give you a good reading and a lot of sensitivity to maintain those angles. Okay, so let's get to the practical side of things, and I'm going to show you now how this looks. There are two more angles that we need to discuss. In the case of a dovetail saw, which is a rib cut saw, meaning it will cut along the grain of the fiber and never across. We've discussed that, which is the rake. Now the flim, it's this angle here between the plate and my saw. In the case of a rib cut saw, it's 90 degrees here, okay? But in a crosscut saw, it could be slanted like that. And then you could have alternatively one tooth that is this way, the other this way, the other this way, okay? And that gives a better cross-cutting. But today the flame is going to be just 90 degrees here. And there is another angle involved, which is the slope, which is this one here. And slope is imposed on saws only to better remove sawdust, but it doesn't affect really the quality of the sawing, as far as I know. So I've never done that, and I'm very happy to file with the saw perfectly parallel to the floor. Okay, not this way, not this way. So first of all, I'm going to find the rake position, meaning this position of my file, and that's very easy actually. It seems very complicated, but you only need to find this angle where the file is resting very nicely in one of the gullets, and it's touching both one tooth's vertical wall and the other one which is slanted. So in one stroke you're gonna file two halves of two teeth, if you know what I mean. You'll see that in a minute. First I find this angle. This flat face here is completely vertical for a 0 degree rake, and I'm gonna just push. So now I can see I've removed the permanent marker, and I have sharpened the flat slope to the right, and also the vertical surface of the previous teeth to the left. And now I can move forward. So here I am. That's another one. That's another one. That's very simple. You know, files only saw on the push stroke, but I don't want to lose the tooth as I'm moving on. So that's why I just stay inside the gullet. There you go. And now I can move forward. Okay, so as I'm sharpening, I'm applying downward pressure, but also a little bit of pressure in that direction, because this will help work on both surfaces of the gullet. Okay, so here. And eventually you enter into a rhythm. That's why I start near the handle. This part is almost never going to be used, or very little, and by the time you get to the middle, you get into a rhythm, and you know very well what you're going to do. Another important consideration is that you need to do the minimum of strokes that you possibly can to establish a freshly sharp point, okay, and no more than that. Because if you create a large burr on this side, on the kind of the exit side of the file, then you will find that this burr can deviate your saw, and it will feel like it's not evenly set. You know, the setting of teeth is the fact that teeth are bent. This is the setting, okay? They're bent alternatively to the left and to the right. And if you have a poor set or an uneven set, your saw, it will start deviating into the cut. In the same way, if you have a thick burr on one side because of the filing, then you will have an uneven cut and not a good trajectory. So you need to do the minimum of work. And to me, that's only 2 strokes, almost always. Always keep mindful of this angle, all right, to keep it, to keep the rake at 0 degrees. And that's gonna take about a minute, minute and a half to complete, maybe 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm past halfway now, and it's a fun thing to do, just to wrap your fingers, not in the direction of cutting, but in the other direction, and you will feel this is so much sharper and kind of coarse, and this which feels smooth because it's sort of dull. So that's another way to check your progress. Okay, so that's done. It feels super sharp, and I'm sure we're gonna be making awesome dovetails with this sauna. Before I remove this, it's very important to take away all the dust, all the metal particles, and I'm gonna just hoover them. Okay. So for sure you don't want metal filings under your hand planes. I'm gonna remove the whole thing now, and we'll put it to the test. I'm just going to mark them eyeballing. One is one on either side. Let's do something like that and see what comes out of it. The main thing here is to just try that the saw is sawing correctly, which is what I would expect, of course, right? Yeah, that works very well. Okay, so before I give you my last tip, I would like to ask you, please subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. That helps a lot for us to keep doing what we're doing. And yeah, so I think I'm very happy with this result. Okay, and the saw feels very smooth. You might feel with a freshly sharpened saw that it bites a lot, and it tends to not really to falter, but it just gets stuck in there, and that's most likely because you're applying too much pressure. So the weight of the saw should be in your hand. As you can see here, there is this little hook. This hook is devised to keep your hand relaxed while holding the saw, and all the wood should feel is just a small kind of a caress. Okay, this is the way you will avoid, or one of the many strategies we have to avoid getting our saws stuck in the middle of the cut. All right. And the final thing, if you have a big burr and you're finding that your saw deviates, then you can come in with a slip stone, with a sharpening stone, maybe in diamond. You could cover the blade to protect it and just make a few passes like that to remove that burr. But that's something I would try to avoid, and the way to avoid it, as I mentioned, is to not file too much. Just do right what you need and no more. Okay, see you next week.